Hi, hey, here's a video. I wanted to show you the difference in, remember we were talking about the quality of the soils. So this is the soil that I use that's, pretty expensive. I'm not going to say it's the most expensive one I use, but as you can see with me going through here, it's a very consistent soil. Here I got something that's big in it, and that's the exception to the rule of something large in it. And it's very, very small. Roots are going to be able to penetrate it quite easily. This over here is the moisture control from Miracle-Gro. So you can see there's a lot of rather large chunks in it. If you lift it up, I think you can see how much stuff there is that's in it. And, little seedlings are going to have a hard time when it hits a piece of bark that looks like that. They're going to have a hard time penetrating that piece of bark with their roots. And so if you look over here, you can see there's a lot of it in it. And matter of fact, I want to show you this this is the moisture control. And look at this. In the moisture control potting mix. Can you imagine that? So when you can do it for 80 or 90 cents a tray, remember that they're going to have stuff in here that is just not things that you want in your plant. That looks pretty good. But when you have to pick stuff out of it like that, now here's the regular potting soil mix, and that is over here. But you can see how much I got this tray, and you can see how much residue. A lot of times you end up with a chunk like this that's just pure clay that you have to break apart. And so yes, it's a lot cheaper to use this. And here's another example of it. And but it's just that, you have to spend a lot of your time either picking some of this stuff out or understanding that your roots are going to hit some of this stuff, not be able to penetrate it. Like there's some of this clay that I'm talking about. And it's okay when it's that size, but I've picked up chunks of that where the whole thing fits in the palm of my hand, and then I have to break it all apart. And when you compare it to Coco Coir, you can see how beautiful a Coco Coir is. I mean, there is just, every now and then you'll get a chunk, but it's very, very consistent, which is why a lot of people like it, which is why I put it right next to the seeds, so the seeds always have the proper amount of moisture. I like three things about Coco Coir. One is its ability to hold moisture and keep the new seeds with perfect moisture. And two is that I like the cleanliness of it. It just keeps your greens nice and clean. And three, I think that it really helps you with mold and fungus that wants to grow in trays. I also want to show you this one. This is the PROMIX Premium Potting Mix. When I did my tests on this one came in at pretty close to $1.80. But it is beautiful. It is very, very consistent. It's considered their premium. It's considered their premium product, and so you're looking at about $1.80 or so to use this stuff. And now the question is, why don't I just plant everything with just the Coco Coir? And the reason I don't do that is because these soils, any one of these soils that I'm showing in all of these trays, they've all got a certain amount of nutritional value to them. When the plants hit them, they're going to grow like crazy. The Coco Coir does not give any of that. So here's my kind of fix for this. I take the Coco Coir and I cover the seed bed up with it. And so when I get it covered like this, Now I've got a perfect place for the seeds to start. They'll start perfectly in that. And then later when the roots get deep and they're hitting something like this bark, they can kind of go around it. So that's kind of my hack that I do to make it where I can use relatively cheap soil and make it so that I can get away with using that cheap soil. But I've just come to the conclusion that I really don't like picking all that stuff out. It's 50 cents a tray difference for me to go with the more expensive soil. And I found that I just like working with this a little better. I don't like having to pick through it. I don't like having to break up clots. And I've come to the conclusion that my time is worth something. So I would just rather use higher quality products. But I wanted to give you guys a bunch of different options. But like I said, if you just go with the stuff that has a lot of junk in it and just put a layer of Coco Coir on top of it, you're going to work good. Now, I will say that even with the very expensive soils, I always use Coco Coir on top of them. I just like the consistency. I like how Coco Coir is very, very clean. You don't get very much any kind of, things that want to grow on it, like fungus and stuff like that. And so because of that, I consider it a very, very good product. So, well, this is it for my videos on the soil comparison. And I'd like you to hit that subscribe and like buttons. They're really going to help me out, get the word out on some of the different techniques that I use. It's a little different than some of the other people growing microgreens.